Welcome back to the Bellevue Club Swim Team podcast, everyone. Happy Friday. We're super excited to have a close friend, Bob Platt from the Scottsdale Aquatic Club, national team director, associate head coach, and multi-time, amazing human being. So
Good recovery.
What an intro.
How are you doing?
That's a good title.
How are you doing, Bob?
I'm doing well. Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here and be engaged with you guys. You run a phenomenal program and really, really thrilled that you asked me to do this. So.
Well, between you and Kevin, the rest of your coaching staff at Scottsdale, you all have always been like the gold standard that USA Swimming has always referenced. Just kind of right off the bat, want to start off like, how do you guys make it so fun, and how do you get the buy-in from the kids and from team culture standpoint? What's Scottsdale like?
Well, I think more than anything, it all starts with Kevin. I mean, Kevin is the head coach and the CEO of our program. I mean, Kevin's demeanor, if you know him, you know that he is one of the most compassionate human beings you will ever meet. He's incredibly nice. He's incredibly generous, both with his time, his energy, and everything. And, Kevin always sees the glass as half full. We lovingly joke that he is Mary Poppins and I am Cruella de Vil, and we balance each other out really well. I think Kevin does the best that he can, and that filters down and makes it so that he tries to make it fun for everybody. I think one of the stories, if you ever talk to him, you will hear him say is that when he grew up in a small program, and did quite a bit of volume, and many of his teammates didn't want to be there. And so he creates an environment, or tries to create an environment, where the kids really want to be there. We're very fortunate in that we have the ability to treat our national group like a college swim team, where you have, for the most part, it's broken up usually into at least 3 groups, sometimes more. And depending on the day, sometimes it's boys, sometimes it's girls, sometimes it's distance, mid, sprint, IM, stroke. He gives his coaches the autonomy to run their workouts the way that they see fit. There are common kind of terms that are our culture, from top to bottom, and certain philosophies, but he allows people to kind of run with it. I think in the last year and a half, we've been working really hard to develop a common dryland program that uses common exercises, fundamentals from the top to the bottom. But, really, I mean, I say this lovingly, Kevin and I couldn't be more different. And I think it works to our advantage really well, but I think there's also a longevity of the coaching staff. Crystal Strempel is the 10-9 director. Crystal's been there, I want to say 10 years. Laurel Hill, who is the coach that basically feeds into the national group, she's been there, I want to say 10 years. I'm finishing my 8th year. Kevin's been there since 2004. So there's quite a bit of longevity with the coaching staff. And I also think the coaching staff, for the most part, gets along really well and respects each other. I mean, it's a pretty diverse group of diverse backgrounds, but everybody gets along really well and kind of contributes. He runs it like a business. I mean, we constantly talk about the swim team being a business. It can be a not-for-profit business, but it's still a business, and we treat it as such. We have weekly staff meetings, minutes are taken, there's an agenda, all of that stuff. So anyway, that's kind of how we run things.
Yeah.
Well, I love it. And right now, obviously, with us being in the situation that we're in, how are you guys keeping your team engaged? What are you guys doing? What is the entire staff doing?
I think in many ways we're working harder now than we probably ever have. Whether that is what everybody else sees or not, I'm not sure. But there is every lead coach of a group sends out a daily email. And the daily email, I will speak for the national group anyway, it always has a swimming pool practice, because many of the kids still have access to pools here. We have a backyard pool workout. There's a dry land workout. There's usually some sort of trivia associated with it. There is a nutritional component associated with it. I would say for the first probably 5 weeks, maybe a little bit longer, there was mental section in terms of we don't always have the time to do that. So Kevin had the kids reading books. a couple books, and then every Friday when we would do a Zoom meeting, we would talk about different chapters in the book, how they related to it. We also present team challenges to the kids. You know, it can be as benign as I did a word search for the kids. You know, we've done scavenger hunts, just things to try to really keep them and their parents engaged. On Monday night, Kevin did, he led a parent and board-led Zoom meeting. And I think there were 120 plus people that were on that meeting.
Cool.
And it was kind of saying, okay, this is our vision. This is what we're doing. These are different scenarios for when we open up and how we hope to get, you know, reacclimated and what our plan is moving forward, and just really trying to keep them engaged. The lead coaches every 2 weeks call every family in their group to touch base, to just say, hey, how's it going? How are you doing? You know, what do we need to be thinking about? So just really, I don't know that we're doing things so much differently than probably what you're doing or everybody else, but just really trying to do that. I did share with Andrew that earlier this week, we did a challenge with the kids where we broke them into teams, and every kid in the national group had to submit a baby picture, and they were just numbered, and then the kids had to pick the baby, you know, like name them, and they would get a prize for it. So just trying to do fun things like that. We did a coach's happy hour, virtual happy hour. That was actually hilarious and fun. And we, on Fridays, like tonight at 5 o'clock, we are just basically doing a hangout with the kids. There's no necessarily agenda. We may ask them some questions, but really it's just so they can see each other's faces and kind of engage with each other.
I love it. And, you know, as soon as you texted me this week about the baby pictures, I shot a text to our group, our coaching staff right away.
There are some good ones floating around already.
Yeah, there's some really good ones. And these two were super excited about it.
Yeah, I had my kids post like just baby pictures. I liked the game idea. I just them post to share on our Google Classroom so everybody could see and just make comments and stuff. I have 13, 14-year-olds, so how willing they are to share their baby pictures was hit or miss, but it was fun to see.
I don't know if you've done a scavenger hunt with the kids, but with Zoom, you can put them into virtual rooms. And you do the scavenger hunt, and it's hilarious to say, okay, now go get something crunchy, and to watch all these people running around on the screen and come back and, you know, get a pretzel in their mouth, an orange, or, you know, whatever. So that was actually hilarious and really fun to do with the kids, and they enjoyed it. So
yeah, those are some great ideas.
So
I love it.
Yeah, it's been really, you know, this has been a really fun time for me in the sense that, you know, I'd like to believe that, you know, I'm good friends with Andrew and our friend Abby, and we're in a group, you know, text and sharing ideas, and everybody, I will say, has been so willing to share ideas that they have in ways that we can help each other, you know, improve personally, kind of checking in on mental health with each other, checking in on the, you know, how's the business of your swim team going? And, you know, so I don't know, I've actually really enjoyed that part of it.
Absolutely. And you touched base about us being even more busy during this time, right? Because we essentially 180'd our job descriptions, and we're trying to kind of keep all the families engaged. Touch base on that reading point that Kevin had with your national team. Like, what kind of books are you suggesting? Because I know I'm sure Lee's ears perked up when you mentioned that, but that was pretty cool, I think, in my opinion.
Well, I will say that you have to go back a little bit further than just when this started in, let's just say, early to mid-March. You know, we have worked really hard, I would say, starting in September, where, you know, we're very fortunate in some ways, and sometimes it can not be very fortunate, but we have a very large national group. And depending on who your leaders are, and sometimes they lead by example, and sometimes they're lead by rah, they're cheerleaders, you know, the culture or the demeanor of your group changes. And so Kevin and I, and especially Kevin, noticed that sometimes we wanted things a little bit differently than they were unfolding. So every Wednesday, we would spend about the first 45 minutes, the first hour, reading and going over different things with kids. I'm quite old. I'm probably old enough to be all of your parents right here. And so a while ago, I had gone to the Olympic Training Center, and there was a lady named Dr. Susie Tuffy, and she created a thing called the Mental Toolbox. And I want to say this was in the mid-90s or late 90s. And so I still have it. and it's broken into different chapters. It can be visualization, it can be goal setting, it can be all different things. So we would print out copies of that chapter, and they have like homework assignments, and we would give them to the kids, and we would go over them with the kids on Wednesdays. And then we took it a step further, and it was like Kevin would identify a book that he wanted to read. One of them was kind of the 4 promises. And so it was based on that, like going through each chapter with the kids, you know, in an hour, and getting feedback from them, and just trying to develop the culture that we really wanted to see. So it's a continuation of doing that, if you will. So probably more information you guys wanted to know, but that's kind of
Yeah, the more the better.
Yeah. Does that trickle down into any other groups?
Yeah, I would say that probably the 2 groups, and I don't want to say below, because that can be a negative connotation. I don't mean that. Let's just say the 2 groups that are directly feed into each other in terms of age, they'll do stuff like that as well.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, it's as coaches, you guys know this. It's like you'll say to an athlete, "How much of the sport is mental?" And they'll be like 50%, 30%. And you're like, "Great, how often do you practice?" Crickets, you know. So it's one of those things. I'm like, you just said it's 50% of the time, so we need to work on it. So I've been trying to do a little bit of that during this time too, you know. But at the same time, we were doing more of that when the kids weren't in school, and since school has started back up, their workload has increased, and so we use the group chat called Group Me. I don't know if you guys use that, you know, to keep the kids engaged. And so we kind of set boundaries that said, okay, we're not going to text or put things in there after 9 a.m. or before 3 p.m. You know, so we kind of changed what we were doing in terms of what we were giving the athletes, because we didn't want to interfere with their academics.
I love the holistic approach. And I think everyone on this call can definitely agree with that. Just treating them as more than just a swimmer, more than an athlete, and treating them as human beings.
Yeah. I think that takes a long time to learn as a coach. You know, that took me a long time. You know, I've been in this game for, I don't even know, 30 years at the national level. And so, you know, it also took a long time to have the mind shift of that when I leave the pool, you know, and it's like you encourage the kids to do it. And it's like when I walk out the door, I kind of put it in a box and move on. It doesn't mean I'm not accessible or, you know, not engaged, but I kind of sit there and say nothing's more important than what my health and kind of everything else that's going on. And so, I mean, anyway, that's it.
I'm so envious of that.
Yeah, Andrew's working on it.
I'm so envious.
Trying hard.
Yeah.
He's doing an amazing job. You don't go and you don't win sectionals in USA Swimming without doing something right. And clearly as a staff and your athletes are doing something right. I mean, look, we'd love to kick your butt, but at the same time, I've said it to Andrew, if there's a team I have to lose to, I'm okay with losing to you guys. I'm not okay because I'm really competitive, but it's friendly. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It was Scottsdale and
gave us
at juniors that you guys were awesome.
We did the tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so fun.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And it just goes to show. Yeah, and it just goes to show you guys, you know, between you and Kevin and the rest of the staff, you all teach your athletes like, hey, you know, it is bigger than just winning and losing. It's bigger than what we do in the pool.
You know, I try to keep in mind that, again, because I've done it for quite some time, that at the end of the day, it's in 10 years, I don't even know if these kids will remember their times, but they're going to remember walking through the tunnel, or they're going to remember a van ride, or they're going to remember the plane ride. And so even if an athlete doesn't have a success in their mind, a successful season, try to always tell them there's other things that they've learned along the way, or there's, you know, I just think that if they're having fun, they're going to swim fast. And part of having fun is enjoying that process. I mean, look, we all have days that are like, this sucks, you know, but I think if you can kind of keep that in mind, then everybody's going to be a lot better off. I mean, you know, I have to remind myself of it all the time, but it's what we try to do.
Right.
Definitely.
And you go back, I mean, you referenced Winter Juniors just for a little bit. And I mean, that was an amazing meet, just not because of the results, but more so because of the conversations we had on deck with each other. And I remember you shooting text messages to our staff. And I mean, you were up in the stands and you were laughing sitting up there. But Lee actually had a really interesting question. on the way you handled yourself during that meet, because it was so admirable from us. So.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
He's like, that's just me.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm curious about. So, as I still think of myself as relatively new to this career, right? So I look up to people like you and people like Andrew, and I don't see you a lot. I see you a couple times a year at these big meets, but 100% of the time I see you, you're smiling, joking around. You seem light. You don't seem burdened by the pressures of the meet. And so I'm just kind of curious as to, is that a self-talk thing? Are you conscious of that? Do you work on that? Are you doing that purposefully? Or is that just something that's come along with you being more comfortable in your role and getting good at your job?
Wow, that's a loaded question. I think all of the above. I think if you went back, so kind of give you a little background, I coached with Dick Schulberg at Germantown Academy, Team Foxcatcher, from 1989 to 92. We put 4 guys on the Olympic team. I thought everybody trained 5 days a week, Saturdays 3 to 5 hours, Sunday 2.5. I thought that was the norm. I left there and became a head coach and was a head coach for 12 years till 2004. And during that time, we only had, I think, about 130 kids on that team. We won sectionals. We did really well. I put an enormous amount of pressure on myself and physically made myself sick from it. When I moved from Pennsylvania to Arizona, I had 3 stomach ulcers and swore that I would never get back into the sport. I slowly got sucked back into it. I broke my neck in 4 places in 2010 and was in a collar, slept in a recliner for 6 months.
Whoa.
Yeah. And then I don't know what Andrew told you, but last March, so March of 2019, I found out I had type 2 diabetes. And I was having trouble with my vision to the point where I couldn't make out. It looked like 25 yards away. It looked like I was looking underwater. And I said, okay, everything changes, because I had always put everybody else first and changed everything, my diet, everything. I weigh myself every day. I'm 175 pounds this morning. And so one of the biggest differences was that I started realizing I'm not good to anybody on the pool deck or anybody around me if I'm not good to myself. And so kind of took a step back and said, like, this is all well and great. Like, I love swimming. I'll do anything for the kids, but not before I do it for myself. And I'm just going to enjoy the process. And so I kind of feel like when I go to a swim meet, all the work's been done. There's nothing I'm going to tinker with or change, I can reinforce and give confidence. And I just think that if I wear the stress visibly, the kids see it, and I'm not good to them. So some of it is very conscious, but I'd like to believe that I'm like that anyway. I think if you ask some of the athletes on the team, especially those that train with me on a daily basis in the distance group, they wouldn't always agree with you, because when I'm there, I'm business and I'm intense, but I kind of leave it behind.
Yeah.
I don't know if that answers your question, but trying to give you the total scope of how I got to where I am, and just trying to really enjoy it. I don't know how many more years I'll be on deck. I've given Kevin, told him I'll give you at least 4 more years, another cycle. And then after that, kind of reevaluate. So I'm going to enjoy it.
Nice.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, of course.
I think, being in the sport, and I always find myself as the odd one out a little bit, like when we go into meets, whether it's our staff or other coaching friends, they're so nervous going into a meet. And not that I didn't get nervous as a swimmer, but I was almost not competitive, maybe to a fault. I mean, I am competitive, but not as much as other people. So I think I've taken that into my coaching. And sometimes I'm almost worried, on the opposite side of what, you maybe used to feel is like, am I not nervous enough? But I had that same thought in my mind is like, I can't do anything now. We've had 3 months to train. And, hopefully my 13, 14-year-olds are listening to the things I say day after day, and put them to use now. So, but that's a good.
Yeah.
It depends. I mean, you guys know, it's like, I genuinely walk out on the deck when I go to something like, to juniors or to sectionals. It's like I walk out on the deck, and I would say for the most part, I'm friends with everybody. I really genuinely like everybody there. So I don't have a reason to be in a bad mood. You know, it's like I was having a bad morning one of the mornings, and, you know, spent some time with my friend Abby, who Andrew knows, and right away she turned it around for me and gave me perspective. So it's like, it's not perfect all the time, you know, but I really like the kids I work with. They're funny. They're hilarious. They crack me up. I love bantering with people, and they know me well enough to know they trust me. They give it right back to me. You know, I don't know if there's a young lady on our team named Ashley Strauss, and, you know, she's a pretty good swimmer. And I mean, she and I will go at it and banter just nonstop, back and forth, you know? And so, you know, they're good. They're really a good group of kids, and I didn't thoroughly enjoy being around them and their families. You know, I love being around Kevin. I love being around our coaching staff. And, you know, I don't know. Hopefully it shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely does.
Yeah.
It definitely
And
does.
I think it's important to maintain that perspective, you know, in all things, personal, job, with the kids, with the sport. Everything is within the context of everything else. So there's a time to take it all in account, and there's a time to kind of compartmentalize, like you've already talked about. And it's just cool to learn some of that balance from you.
I do think some of that comes with age, where, you know, you are, when bad things are, I get the most nervous is when everything's going well, because then I'm waiting for something like the ball to drop. You know what I mean? I'm waiting for something to happen, you know, and it's like, if anything, what's going on right now with COVID-19, it's taught us like really how important swimming is. It's like, we all love it. It's our livelihood. It's what we do, but in the big scheme of things, it's that big, you know? So just try to keep that in perspective.
Yeah. And I think you said that you guys have, you know, a diverse group of people who work for you. And I think that maybe that personality, you know, diversity helps balance everybody. Like you said, you and your head coach are quite different. And I mean, everybody on our staff is different, but there's, you know, there is a connecting line that really makes us even out. But, you know, there's things, Lee pushes me because we might not agree on like some same, you know, coaching style or technique thing, and he'll push me to think about it. And, you know, Evan, who's not on here, will also do the same, but then it always kind of evens out, and it just really balances things out well.
I'm usually the one that's doing the pushing. I'm usually the black sheep. I'm usually the one going, but why? But why? You know, or asking. You know, I'm finishing up my 8th year with SAC, and I don't even know, 5 years ago, I became the director of operations. And so one of the things when I became the director of operations that I think was difficult for some of the coaches at the time was really trying to get everybody to look at it as the team, as a business, and realizing that if you want to be a good, you know, if you want to be a good coach, so many people, they want to be a good coach, but they don't realize that what you do on the deck is just icing on the cake, that the real coaching always happens off the pool deck. You know, and when I became the director of operations, I sat down with Kevin and said, okay, these are the things that I'd like to change. And one of them was that every coach on our staff has some sort of dry side responsibility. It can be as simple as being in charge of the yearbook for the banquet. You know, we have a social media committee where coaches control the social media content. You know, it is all different things. So pretty much everybody has something that they're responsible for away from just their coaching. And in my opinion, it makes them a better coach, and it also gives them the ability to look at it as a business. It could be their small business that they're running. You know, somebody is in charge of the relationship with area swim schools. Somebody is in charge of doing our newsletter, our bi-monthly newsletter. Somebody is in charge of the relationship with doing our summer rec, the city of Scottsdale, summer rec swim teams, and they do that, you know, tryouts, but everybody has some sort of thing they do away from it. And I think that took a while for people to get used to that. Well, wait, what do you mean? Are you going to pay me more? I'm like, no, it's part of your job description. Like, you want to do this and you want to do well and you want to go eventually become a head coach or a lead coach. These are things you really need to wrap your mind around. You know, one of the coaches, she's really good at writing. And so 3 times a year, she writes an article for the local newspaper that also it goes to the mayor and the city council members. and that helps to strengthen that relationship with the city. And so they get to see it. And so, again, it was just kind of trying to figure out these things that we were doing, and how can we make the team better, stronger? And we like to say we are evolving. We're always evolving.
Yeah, always.
Yes. So anyway.
And I love everything you just said. I think that's the reason why you all have been so successful for so long. I want to transition back to the point that you made. Hey, if the families and swimmers expect me to be there for them, I got to take care of myself. What are you doing right now in this current situation? How are you taking care of yourself, Bob?
I am mildly obsessed with it. As I told you, when on March 15th, 2019, when I found out I had type 2 diabetes, I was 261 pounds. And so, my feet were hurting me. I was getting up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, and I basically changed everything. And I would say really August is when I really started. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I lift. I ride the stationary bike basically every single day. Right now, because of what we're experiencing, in addition, I'm walking probably 4 to 8 miles every day. I log everything that I eat on my app on my phone. So I'm eating at a deficit right now, a 20% deficit. It's really only about 1,600 calories a day. Track everything. I track my macros. Now I know what my carbs are, my fat, my my protein. I weigh myself every single morning, and for a while, it would fluctuate, which is normal, but I don't really get obsessed or care about the fluctuation on a daily basis. I just look for the weekly average, and we'll go to the point where I have plateaued for 2 weeks, and then once I do that, I'll start eating a surplus to hopefully get some guns like Andrew. So, but that, and just really I probably said no to people more in the last year than I ever have. Like, no, I can't do that. No, I've got to take care of myself. It's like when we were juniors, I still got up at 4 every morning. I was down in the gym. I was riding the bike. I was lifting. I stuck to it. And so it's just really important to me right now. I don't ever want to go back to the way that I was before. If I retire in 5-10 years, I don't want to retire and have my partner be pushing me around in a wheelchair. That's not my idea of fun when we're traveling. So just trying to make it so that can live healthier and longer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I always think about, us as role models for the kids. I personally look up to the kids because they're so dedicated, and I remember what it takes to be in that spot. And I can't really remember how I did it. And, I see these kids day in and day out working so hard and getting their schoolwork done and being so diligent and dedicated. And so I'm like, the least I can do is get a 30-minute workout in and eat half decent. You know what I mean? So the kids definitely help me stay on track as well. And then obviously I want to look like I can keep up with them.
I don't know that I look like I can keep up with anybody.
Oh no, you do.
The hardest part is there's a mom on our swim team. Well, there's an alumni. And the mom has a cake and cookie business. And let me tell you, this is stuff that would win on TV. It is phenomenal. And the hardest thing was when I found out that I had the type 2 diabetes, the daughter was home from college for spring break, and she brought a box of personalized cookies in. I'm like, I can't eat them. And she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, no, literally, I can't eat them. You have to give them away. And they were all designed specifically for me. And I was like, it's killing me. So she makes a cake for me every year for my birthday. I'm like, all right, I'm having a slice of the cake, but I can't have the entire cake.
Yeah. Yeah. I know you got to pawn it off. I know. Yeah. Christmas time, I'm like, I'll take one, and then find somebody to give it to. I don't want it to go to a waste, but I can't eat it all.
Yeah.
Lee, you asked the question about me, like with the attitude of change. I've tried to not only change the eating, the diet and exercise, but kind of my approach to it all too, and just be like, okay, I'm going to have fun with this. I'm going to not be as stressed as, I've been, because I carry my stress a lot. People see, and just trying to find a healthier outlet on it than eating, or whatever that may be.
For sure.
Yeah, no. And Bob, thank you again for sharing all that stuff.
No worries.
It's actually like refreshing to hear, your story and how you've come through, and, and up to this point, you're still maintaining that positivity and that light, so for all of us.
I don't want to ever go back to where I was. It was, let me tell you this, Kevin knew that it was bad when we were junior nationals, and he walked into hospitality and everybody's eating pizza and I'm eating pineapple and watermelon. And he looked at me and just shook his head. I'm like, I can't have any pizza. So I literally was sitting there eating watermelon and pineapple. I'm like, oh, I want pizza.
That's good. That's impressive self-control, especially at a swim meet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, I mean, I just learned to make, I like Caesar salad. Not that it's healthy, right? But I like Caesar salad, so I just learned to make a plain Greek non-fat yogurt dressing. And so it's like, I don't know, 48 calories, and I actually really like it. So I'm spending more time eating stuff we plant in a garden and eating stuff in the garden and kind of trying some recipes. And last week, I'll probably make them today. I made non-fat and zero sugar chocolate chip cookies. So it was like a brown sugar alternative, a granular sugar alternative, and the morsels were non-fat, no sugar, So it wasn't as sweet as what I was eating, but it still tasted pretty good and enough to satisfy my craving.
There you go.
We need to get some recipes from Bob.
I know. Yeah. Bob, the coaching staff of the Bellevue Club, we're actually going to ask each family to give a favorite family recipe, and we're going to have a Bellevue Club Swim Team cookbook.
That's awesome.
But we may just ask you for some some guests.
No, we'll give you a guest page.
Oh, guest coaches.
Guest coaching recipes. That's what
get one from Abby. Get one from Bob.
It's just Caesar dressing. That's all it is.
Well, it doesn't have. It could be that. It could be whatever. You have to think about it. We haven't laid it out yet.
Okay.
We got a lot of planning ahead of us. But Bob, transition a little bit back to Scottsdale and your relationship with your swimmers. Obviously, there's a lot of buy-in. You see that at the meets. Every time we're on deck with you, we see this interaction. And you're not talking about splits. You're not talking about stroke count and heart rate and whatever, and get your butt to go warm down. You all are having genuine conversations with each other. Where does that buy-in start? And how, I know you touched base on it a little bit with you and Kevin developing it, but where does that start in your mind?
I'd like to believe it starts with Kevin and I. I mean, I think we're as honest and transparent with the kids as we can be. I don't want to say that I don't treat them as kids, because I do, but at the same time, I don't treat a 16-year-old like they're 10 or 12 and coddle them. I mean, I very much expect, accountability out of them. I'm very blunt. I am from Philadelphia, so we're pretty blunt and pretty straightforward and aggressive, and the kids know that that's what they should expect when they're working with me. Good, bad, or indifferent. It's like, we'll joke and I'll compliment a kid and they'll stop and be like, should I write that down? I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, because we usually only get one of those, once a month, once every 2 months, you compliment from me. I'm like, if you earn it, I'm happy to give it to you. I'm not going to just praise you because you think you should get an award, every day. So I think we're pretty real with the kids. I think we're honest with them and just try to have fun. And, the harder they work, the harder, we'll work for them. And I'll say that to them sometimes. It's like, it is a mutualistic relationship, and they should motivate us as much as we motivate them. And I had a college coach ask me that about one of the athletes one time. They're like, what have they done lately to motivate you? And I was like, oh, that's a great question. And I'll take that back and go to the kids and say, hey, I had a conversation with one of the college coaches, and they asked me, what did you do to motivate me? So we try to talk about things like that. So I don't know. I try to have fun with them and try to just treat them like they're normal people,
Yeah, I love all of that.
Honesty too. Yeah, I love the honesty, and that's why I have Kelly and Lee on deck, and occasionally Ash on deck. These guys bring it hard, and they bring the real often. So
I'm not sure that the kids like me bringing that all the time.
Yeah, I mean, as coaches, we appreciate it for one another, and then as you coach to a swimmer, I mean, there's a difference between being mean and being honest, and I will definitely be honest. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if you walk up to me after a race and and I usually don't get mad. I mean, it's you're swimming, and I might be a little bit disappointed, but they walk up to me and they're like, that was bad. I'm like, yeah, it was, you know. What else do you want me to say? You want me to make you feel better when you're already telling me what it was?
Yeah.
You know, we've gotten into the habit too, I'd say in the last year and a half, 2 years, of trying to change their thought. And like, they'll come up after a race and, you know, if they start whining or complaining, I'll be like, eh, like, just stop. You know, I'm like, start with something positive and then go to that. I'm like, I don't come to you that way. Don't come to me that way.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, just take a step back, collect yourself, come back, you know, and then talk about it. Like, but don't come right away and be like, that sucked. I'm like, I don't want to hear that, you know? So again, just trying to change the direction of it a little bit with the kids. So again, you know, I'm sitting here, being interviewed by you guys, but just as easily I can turn it around and do the same with you, because while I really appreciate you trusting me to give you the answers, you guys have them as much as I do. You guys are doing a great job. Really, you may not see it, and I love the fact that you want to continually improve, and that's why you're doing something like this. But I look at you guys and say, okay, you had quite a few finalists and people winning it, junior nationals and swimming really fast, and you know, it's like you're doing a really wonderful job, and clearly your kids are buying into it, and that's a culture you're creating. You know, we try really hard. You know, Andrew, to go back to what you said, there are a lot of little teams popping up all over the area near us, you know, and if all I did was worry about what was going on around me, we wouldn't be any good. So we try really hard to just put blinders on and not give a crap about what anyone else is doing, because we can't control it. And if I worry about somebody that left the program or somebody that might come to the program, I'm taking away my time and my energy and my focus from the kids that are in the pool. And so we do talk about that quite a bit. It's just like, who cares what another team's doing? Just do your thing, you know, do the best you can to work with the kids that are in the pool, the best of your ability, and, you know, some great things will happen.
Yeah,
Awesome.
if you want to turn it around, you can. It's open conversation, but I love hearing.
I'm not really preachy. Sorry, I didn't mean it to.
No.
No, it's good to hear.
Amen, brother.
Yeah, sometimes it's, you need to be preached at.
Yeah, and everything you just mentioned, I know in our coaches meetings when we get into our really competitive nature, it's like Lee kind of breaks everyone up and is like, hey, listen, like, let's just focus on us, right? And it usually gets pretty bad during championship season time. And Lee's usually that voice of reason, just, hey, like, let's just do us and let's do what we're capable of doing.
So can you call Lee Mary Poppins then?
Sure, I'd be proud.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean,
that's awesome.
Always got something up his sleeve.
Yes.
Always got something up the sleeve.
Up and down problem.
Definitely.
In the bag of tricks, for sure.
Bob, when you guys I'm not sure of how close you all are to opening and kind of getting back to normal, but you know, what does that all look like in your mind, if anything, you know?
Yeah, first of all, we will follow the guidelines of, you know, the government, our local government, the city, you know, and go from there, whatever the recommendations are. About a week and a half ago, we started putting together a plan, a tentative plan with several different scenarios. What does it look like if social distancing allows 10 people to get together? What's it allow, you know, 25 or 50? We have spoken at great length that we probably will not be going to any swim meets this summer. Maybe a local one day, but really the idea is to get the kids back in the water, focus on team culture, the development of team culture, you know, the things that we want to see from them, get back to basics, do it slowly. And we want to be cognizant of the fact that this has economically impacted many families. And we don't want to be saying, okay, well, let's go to Mount Hood for a week and buy a $500 airplane ticket and, you know, all of these things. So I think we're pretty much not going to focus on that this summer. Just really seeing about making it fun for the kids, for ourselves, you know, and kind of easing back into it and really focusing on the team culture. I mean, that's what we've talked about the most. And also then it's also saying, okay, let's look forward and how do we build our base? You know, how do we get more kids into our program? What do we do to differentiate ourselves, you know, from it? What are we doing a little bit different? What are we doing to evolve and focus on those things? You know, sent a note to Abby and to Andrew this week about some things I wanted to do with our social media, with content marketing, which is a little bit different. So it's just kind of tinkering with things, to try to improve. So that's what we're doing. At least that's what we've discussed. I don't know when we're going to open back up. We would like to be open by the end of May. If it's sooner than that, phenomenal. But I don't think it's going to happen probably before the end of May.
Yeah. Well, some states are already opening up, and they found some cases already.
Yeah.
So.
It's a little bit, on a personal level, my partner is a physician. He's an ER doctor and oversees, 4 ERs. And so it very much hits close to home, and kind of listen to what he's saying and reading and hearing every day. And the last thing I want to do is jump back into, hugging somebody and being around 50 people when we don't know what's really going on. So we're gonna take it slow and really make sure that we're doing what we need to do. I'm sure no different than anyone else. We've talked about splitting the groups so that they're smaller, having them come in 15-minute intervals apart from each other, working from both ends of the pool, not really utilizing the locker rooms if we don't have to, just kind of all of those things, thinking out loud. So we are fortunate in that we're outside year round. We're not indoors, so that does and especially here in Phoenix, it isn't like a big city in the sense that there's all these high rises that people live in. People don't. It's one big sprawling strip mall. So people are already distanced away from each other as it is. So we're a little bit different in that respect, but really just going to try to take it slow.
Yeah. Slow and steady wins the race.
Yep.
Bob, for our viewers and our listeners for the show or on the show, what are some words of encouragement you can provide for us during this time? And we always like to end the show on a really positive note. And, just listening to you speak, you have so much to offer. So what do you have for our guests?
Well, first, thank you. I know about that, but thank you. Really just trying to keep it in perspective, trying to remember what role swimming plays in everybody's lives. And we think that it is so important, but really it's just a small little snapshot, of everything that's going on. And it's just, I do think that the ability every day to do something physically active will keep your mind, a little bit more healthy, which is good for everybody. But there will be an end to this. There's going to be an end to it, whether it is in, a week, 5 weeks, or 5 months. There will be an end to it, and you're going to come better out on the other side. I made a promise to myself when this started that I was going to come out of it better than I went into it. And I'm trying to keep that promise and really trying to be diligent about working out and, reaching out to friends to let them know you care about them. And, this is a very personal thing, but I wrote out a list of people in my life that have really impacted me in a positive way. And I wrote them all a card and sent it to them, to take the time for we are so quick to text or to email. And I felt that it was really important to write out a card and just say, thank you for what you've contributed to where I am now. And just tried to take what could be a negative and make it a positive. So that's what I've been trying to do on a personal level.
Wow.
Love it.
Wow. Mic drop, Bob.
Yeah.
No, seriously, man. Bob, stay healthy. Thank you so much for taking your time with us today.
Yeah, this was awesome.
Yeah, always good to see you.
Yeah, you guys rock it, man. Keep doing what you're doing. You're killing it. Seriously. I look forward to kicking your butt. I look forward to competing with you guys too.
We appreciate the praise. I feel like I always tell my kids after big swim meets when they've done well, they come back and their pace is faster and they have to go on the faster send-offs, you know what I mean? And they're all kind of like, oh man, like they're on this high and then they realize they have to work so much harder. And so I think both you guys and us, we know we've had some success, but it's like, once you come back, you just got to keep doing more just to keep moving forward.
It's always easier to chase people, I will say that. And then when you have the target on your back, we're kind of like, oh, great, here we go again. Everybody wants to kill us, So it's like, but we talk to the kids about that all the time. And, you guys are going to be there very quickly. You're already there. You won. So now you've got the target on your back. you know, but it's fun. It should be fun.
Mhm.
So you guys stay safe, stay healthy, and look forward to seeing you guys. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks,
Thank
Bob.
you so much.
Absolutely.
Have a good weekend, Bob.
Have a
Bye.
good one.
See you later.
Bye.